Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily People Podcast, the show that is made great by a great guest. Today we've got on Renee Amoroso. She's a teacher from St. Louis Public Schools. She's absolutely incredible. She talks a lot about how to build a classroom culture and an environment that is encouraging for students to learn. Take a listen to what she has to say. Excuse me. Please forgive me, as I don't really like asking for help. But do you know what would make a good intro? Just kidding. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Daily People Podcast, where we talk about achievements, have fun, and each guest is certified as awesome. I'm your host, John Mark Spear. Let's go. So are you ready?
Okay. I think that I'm as ready as I'm going to be in the next 5 minutes. So why not?
Yeah, no, we're ready.
If it's horrible, I will not at all be offended if you're like, let's try again later. Like, seriously.
No, we won't need to try again later. You are Renee Amoroso, and you're so good at what you do. And if you can't tell, we started. We're live. So welcome to the Daily People Podcast, Renee.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, John Mark.
Of course. So I was
Did you start us live? Hold on. Did you start us live when we started?
Yeah, I just kind of threw us in the fire, but we're in. We're going.
Let's do this.
So I was thinking about some of the people that I wanted to have on as a guest, and you're very early in the podcast. I've got a lot of people that I want to ask to be on, but I'm also trying to hit my geographic locations, which is why, along with your expertise in the education field, you're also in St. Louis, and you're my person for St. Louis. You're my connection. So you are a teacher for St. Louis Public Schools. I'm pretty sure you were awarded the St. Louis Public Schools Educator of the Year for secondary math last spring. Congratulations. Congratulations. So why do you think you won such this award in such a large school district? And how big is your school district?
Yeah, so we are a pretty big school district. I think off the top of my head, we have somewhere about 50 schools. We serve about 22,000 students, predominantly low income as well. So I teach in the southernmost part of St. Louis City, and I have fifth and sixth grade math. That's last year. This year, I just teach sixth grade math, actually.
What's up?
And things got switched around with COVID,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think part of the reason that I was successful and have been successful so early on in my career is, as much as I love mathematics, honestly, I didn't want to teach math. My principal, when I took the job, said, "This is what I need." And I said, "Okay, I'll jump in." I was not great at math myself, so I had to really teach myself how to teach math. Because of that, something that I realized early on in my teaching career was I need to really build relationships with my students. And so I really focused on making sure my students felt safe and a part of a community in my classroom. And I would say that it was pretty typical, and it's pretty typical every year, that students walk in and every year they say, "Math is my least favorite subject."
Of course.
By the time that's what happens. It was not my favorite subject, I would say, when I was a kid. And I would bet often my students leave my classroom saying that it's one of their favorite subjects because they like being there. And that's really my goal as a teacher, is making sure my classroom is a place where students want to be. Absolutely. And where they believe they can be successful, because we all need somebody who believes in us.
So the school system that you're at, I hear this a lot, especially in towns the size of St. Louis or, your Memphis, Dallases. Y'all probably, at least from what I've seen in these other school systems, funding and class size can be an issue. How big is your classroom, and what is your classroom culture?
So, great question. My class sizes have ranged quite a bit in my 5 years with St. Louis Public Schools. I've had classes upwards of 32 kids. This year, I'm blessed with about 21. I just got a new student added today, actually. But so that's quite a range, especially for the middle school level that I do teach, because those are big kids. That's a lot of kids to fit into one class. And I know that really ranges based on where you're at in the district as well. And so I think that a lot of districts that have similar demographics as my own struggled with that exact ratio, because it's hard to keep teachers on board. And it is hard because it's not an easy job necessarily. Teaching is not easy anywhere.
Oh, of course not.
No. And then as far as classroom culture, that is unique to every classroom in every school. It really is. My classroom culture is a place of joy, and we have many celebrations, and we pat ourselves on the back. And because even though I teach sixth grade, the kids want to be kids. They want to be celebrated. They want to have fun. And if you're not having fun, you're not going to learn. So
I'm a huge believer in encouragement anyways. I think it's such a great deal to help build any sort of community in anything that we do in life.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I don't think we do it enough. I don't
No.
think that we are positive enough
Absolutely.
for anywhere in our lives, because at some point, our generation and generations that are right around us, we were told that we had to do this whole praise sandwich thing, like a positive and then negative and then a positive again. And why can't we just always be positive? Why can't I just say a compliment and that be it? Why do I have to critique you?
I agree with that. I'll think the negative things whenever I walk away, but I think the positive stuff is so good for feeding the souls of other people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this or not, but my degree is also in education. So I have a physical education degree. And when I was in college, I had to teach PE in a junior high. And so
I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, well, you do now.
Wow.
So my classroom size was 2 classrooms, and it was hectic, and it was fun, and it was chaotic. And, you're talking about having a culture of encouragement and fun and patting everybody on the back. And when you have as many kids in your classroom as I had, you had to be firm while still having fun.
Oh, yeah.
You ever wish you could have a whistle in your classroom?
Oh, well, I'm the volleyball coach. So actually, at some points, I have used a whistle in my classroom. But I would say that's no, and I agree. And I think so. I think what I call that in my own classroom, and what I've learned from people who are much better educators than me, it's kind of called fierce love. Mm-hmm. It's a moment of my classroom is run as a tight ship. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that there's not chaos and kids aren't kind of but that chaos is because they're excited about what they're learning about. But at the same time, when we walk in the hallways, when we did walk in the hallways, I'm not sure how well this will age with COVID, but people would compliment us on our straight lines. Mm-hmm. And my students, it's a competition, right? Like we would get compliments and then they'd earn, a chain link to have a party eventually, mm-hmm. right? So I totally agree. There's that fierce love that has to happen of there's discipline, there's understanding of what's the right time to kind of be wild versus kind of buckle down. And I think that's a really strong skill that children need to learn for mm-hmm. adulthood.
Yeah. Another thing that you kind of talked on a little bit was the relationships that you have in your classroom. One thing that I could not stand whenever I was in a classroom is if somebody called me John. I have been John Mark my whole life. My parents named me that 26 years ago, and I'm John Mark. And I couldn't stand when somebody called me John. So how long does it take you to learn the names of your students?
I'm so excited you asked me this. Guys, I play a game at the beginning of the year. It's kind of like a memory game. I have a terrible memory. And so we go around the room or we'll do it on Zoom and they say their name and their like favorite. Typically I do favorite animal or favorite color. Sometimes I do something a little bit more obscure, and I will do kind of like one student and then the next student, and I'll do both of them at the same time. And then I'll do the third student, and then I go student A, student B, student C, and then I'll do, all the way till I have all my students and I've said all their names memorized. So I would say typically by end of day 2, I have every student memorized. It is something I pride myself on it.
That's incredible. So I was never that good, but the reason I asked that is whenever I first started coaching football, I was 19 years old and I went to Gilmer High School, which was 20 minutes north of where I grew up. And one of the guys I met there, his name was Matt Turner, and he believed in the ABC philosophy. And so for coaches, that means always be coaching. But he told me once that you can't coach a kid if you don't know their name. And it's the same way with teaching them in the classroom. You have to be able to call whoever by name, get their attention, and then make sure that their eyes are on you. That way they can hear what you say.
Well, what that really is respect. It's showing a mutual respect between you and whoever you're talking to. And that's not just for kids, right? That's adults too. That's saying I respect you enough to know you, and then that kind of can flow between the two of you. In fact, just today in class, I had a student, I can't say their name, who said, actually, I want my name to be spelt like this instead of spelt like the way you've been spelling it, because I had not been putting in an apostrophe. And I said, I really appreciate you speaking up and telling me, advocating for yourself. I think that's really important, because you're absolutely right. If that's the way your name is spelled, then you need to let me know that. And that's something where, especially because of the cultural differences between me and my students, it's something I hadn't even thought about. So yeah, it's a respect thing.
Absolutely.
I really think.
I've got a friend who he grew up being Will with 2 L's. And then I got a notification on his contact. I got an iPhone. And so it sends me the notifications when somebody changes their contact information to like an L. And I was like, wait, you're
just one L? Just
one L. Yeah, we're down. He's Will with 1 L now.
I have some friends named Kate who are now Kat, and that's really hard. That's a hard switch.
That's a hard. At least he's still Will. Yeah, Kat. Kate the cat. So ultimately, we're talking about respect. We're talking about some of the discipline. How does this relate to the community that you carry in your classroom?
Yeah, so I think it's especially important. I ask you guys to think back to when you were in 6th grade. It's a weird time in your life, and you are experiencing a lot. And
I was awful in 6th grade.
Yeah, I was going to say. And so sometimes my students are mean because, they're mean. And I teach them very quickly that, my classroom is not a place that we're going to be mean. And why? I think a lot of the important things that I teach is why are we not going to do it that way? Why are we going to do it this way instead? Because especially something I really hone in on is you want it to be a space that is safe, because without it being a safe space, you won't see risks being taken. And you have to be risky in math and science. You have to be willing to try something different, right? Especially in science, where you're experimenting and you're learning and you're watching things happen. You have to be risky to answer something that you're not quite sure you have the right answer. Because sometimes in math, well, actually, especially in math, typically you're trying to get to the same solution. But I tell my students all the time, same solution, different strategies. They take so many different routes to get to the same answer. But I love, they're called number talks. I love listening to them explain their thinking, because it is typically so different than my own path to get to an answer. And that all comes from that, I feel safe enough to take this risk. And you don't feel that way unless you respect your classmates, you respect one another. And so, then the question is, well, how do you build that? How do you get there? And that just takes time. And that takes one-on-one conversations. And that takes the little moments of having lunch bunches. And we've done we're starting a crossword club at my school during lunchtime with my students because they want to be together. And right now we're Zooming and it's so different. But it's taking time to get to know kids who want to be there and they want to be excited. They want to know their community. So
yeah. When I was growing up, obviously we didn't have COVID when you and I were in school. So there was nothing that kept us all from being online students unless you could afford to be an online student back in the day. And so you're talking about risk, especially in the math, in the math class or just any class really, but risk in speaking up and having to put yourself out there in front of your peers. Now you have to do it online by typing some stuff in. And the difference that I see is, cyberbullying became one of those things that it was a deal when social media really kind of came around. And now that you're not in brick and mortar and it's not happening face to face and it's strictly online, are you seeing any negativity because of that?
That's a good question. So we monitor our learning platform pretty closely, and I turn off the chat feature at the end of the day. So there's really not a way that they would be able to connect with one another. However, at the beginning of the year, we were having issues with that, and so they disabled the feature for students to connect one-to-one, and which was difficult because that eliminates another way for collaboration to occur between our students. But
or just relationship in general.
Exactly. But I do think in the long run, I think that was the best decision for the time being. I think it was what needed to happen. But it is one of those things where, I had students at the very beginning of the year saying, hey, what do I do about this? And I'm messaging my principal saying, hey, what do we do about this? It was weird to navigate. So some of those features have been disabled because we were seeing that. Now, obviously, if they want to send something, everyone in the class can see it as well as the teachers. And if we see it, then we would, contact parents right away and say, hey, this was a problem today. So not so much now, but at the beginning of the year, that was tricky for sure.
Are you guys having a lot of issues with student engagement in class?
That is our number one discussion every week in our PLC, in our private professional learning communities. So yes, the answer is yes. It is so hit and miss. And really the discussion has become, the discussion has become, okay, grades came out, we had a lot of D's and F's, which a lot of that is related to attendance and, turning in work.
I was having a conversation with one of my friends yesterday, a couple days ago, I don't know what day it was, about how simple it is just to get through school by turning in work and showing up. But anyways, keep going.
No, and that's exactly right. I have some students who are really struggling to master the work, but they are completing it. And so they're passing the class quite handedly because they are completing every assignment to the best of their abilities. I want to say that would be very similar in my own classroom. They would just get even more one-on-one time of okay, let me help remediate this. It's so much trickier to handle.
Well, the effort's there, and so it makes it to where the effort should be on your part as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other side, so the kids who are not completing the work, the question becomes, do we really know why they're not completing the work? Do we really know what's going on at home? Do we really know what the situation is? And sometimes I feel like, you know what? We've been in communication with mom. She says that they should be doing it. And so I say, yeah, this student is choosing not to. But then the answer still is, we don't really know, though. We don't know what is hindering them. We don't know if their hotspot is so shaky that they can't log in, and it's so frustrating because when your Wi-Fi is bad, it's frustrating to sit there and try to get something to load. And so it is the conversation of the hour, definitely. I think at every school right now, there's no way you're not talking about what can we do to help our students submit their work, turn in their work, get to class. We definitely don't have the answers. That's what we're talking about in every staff meeting.
Well, I can see why you guys would talk about that every staff meeting. It's hard enough to want to attend a Zoom meeting on doing your personal things.
Yeah.
Let alone
Agreed.
having to be a sixth grade kid having to do it.
That's what I keep reminding them. People, anyone, I keep saying they're kids. What would you have done? I was a goody two shoes, and I would have skipped school on a regular basis if I didn't have to log in, and I would have done the bare minimum because I was a kid. Yeah,
that's what happens. I would want to go outside, or I don't know, play video games or anything but school if I had the opportunity to.
I know.
That's what I would choose to do.
But we're making it work. You know what? I'll say this. My classroom is still a place of, like, my online classroom is still a place where I have high expectations, and we're still celebrating each other. And I just want to say, if any of my sixth grade students ever listen to this, I'm proud of them, because I really am. I'm really proud of how well my school community and my students have transitioned to this online situation.
I love that you took just a brief minute to give a shout out to your students and let them know how proud that you are. That just tells me so much the heart behind why you choose to do what you do. With an educator like yourself, who has been awarded such a high honor that you received this past year, it's probably very likely that you could jump ship and move to another school if you wanted to. Why do you stay?
Yeah, people have asked me about that. And a lot of people really have wondered what has made me choose to stay with St. Louis Public, choose to stay with my school. And that the answer really is just 100%. Like, you hit it on the head. It is my students. Like, I am so passionate about seeing my community grow with my school. And I'm so invested in making sure that they have equitable educators. Like, I really believe that we need to have teachers who are talented at every level. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, St. Louis is a prime candidate for any sort of case study on wealth and racial segregation. It really is. Absolutely. And the truth is, like, there is just no reason that we only have good teachers out in the county. And so I'm passionate and I'm committed. I'm committed to St. Louis City for the long haul. My husband and I have talked about it, and I think that, like, you can't. So here's part of my philosophy is we actually recently just purchased a house, and somebody was asking us where it was. Thank you. They were asking us where it was. They asked if we had made the jump to the county, and I kind of venomously said no. Like, I believe in St. Louis City, and I can't believe in St. Louis City and not live in the city that I am, trying, like, the community that I'm trying to build up. And so we're here for the long haul, and that's a platform important to me.
If there ever was one. I mean, should you ever decide to do anything political? Just saying that, which I don't know if this is in your future or not, but just saying that you educated in this community for a while, you lived in the county, and you're trying to build up the area around you is incredible. Go you.
Well, thank you.
Keep doing that.
I don't know if political things are in my future, but I do have high hopes for my school district. So we'll see.
Any sort of activism?
Oh, yeah, I imagine that will be in my future.
Yeah. So go you. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's take a brief minute. We're going to hit a commercial break, and we'll be right back with you. Welcome back from this wonderful commercial break. Right before we went in, we were talking a lot of education, and we're going to kind of continue to do that. St. Louis Residency Program. What is that?
Good question. So this program is kind of new. There are different programs around the country similar to it, but it's new to St. Louis. And I've been honored this semester. It is a program that is similar to, like, a doctor's residency. And so I have a mentee in my classroom. I really call her my co-teacher. And the reason that it's quite different than your traditional like student teaching program, which a lot of teachers can relate, probably would say it was so-so at best. This program is different in that it really mirrors that residency program of like you get in, you get hands-on, and you are committed for a whole year. So they're in my classroom for a calendar year, and then the next year my mentee will be in her own classroom with a coach alongside her the whole time. And then the third year she'll be released as well. So it's something where it's really meant to prepare inner city school teachers to be ready to take over their own classroom and be a top-notch quality educator and not have to experience that first year or two of just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Because I know when I went in my own classroom, it was rough. And my students definitely, like, their learning was detrimented because I was not prepared to be a teacher. And
Is this a new program?
Yeah, it is. It's new to St. Louis within the last 3 years.
Okay.
There are other programs that have been longer established in different bigger cities,
Okay.
but I am not sure what they're called.
So if I wanted to be a part of this program, would I have to, and we're saying that my education degree is not a thing. So
Yes.
Is this a program for somebody who, let's say, used to work at a bank and now just wants to come in and teach? Or do they have to go through education first in undergrad and then go through the program?
Okay, so it is designed for people who have it's designed for people who've had a semi-career in a different sphere and then have decided, I actually want to be a teacher. How do I do that? And they Google, how do I be a teacher? And, how can I be a teacher in Missouri without going back and getting my, education?
We have the Apple program here. It's the same thing.
So,
at least it sounds like it.
It's an alternative route to a certification for teaching in Missouri, and this one is specific to the St. Louis region. The reason it's so neat is because they actually are getting their master's. The people in the program are getting their master's degrees alongside completing the program. So they have their bachelor's degree, went into a field, wasn't what they thought it was going to be, and then realized, I want to become a teacher. How can I make that happen?
Straight 180. I got a lot of people who have done that.
That's because teaching is quite an amazing field. It really is.
It's very rewarding. The interpersonal relationships is something that I think anybody with a personality would vie for.
And here's what I say: if you are a teacher and you're listening, ask your students what if they'd ever want to be a teacher. And I often hear my students say, no, I don't want to be a teacher. It looks like your job sucks. And I say, but you'd be so talented. Like, look at the way you care for others. Look at the way you invest and so my challenge to other educators out there is make your job look like it's something your students would want to do.
Oh, come on. Come on. That's how you win awards, isn't it? That's how you win awards. You run around with a smile on your face all day and a sign on your back that says, give me an award. I'm happy to be here. Either that or you're wearing like a Lowe's jacket that says, how may I help you? Like you're just.
That's it.
Yeah.
How did you know? How did you know?
I just knew. I knew it. So give me a brief rundown of Renee Amoroso when you were in high school and a couple memories from college.
Yeah. Okay. So shocker, in high school, I was a pretty straight-laced kid.
Did you love school?
I really did. I really did. I was the yearbook editor. I was in sports. I played volleyball, which was my main love. I did basketball because my parents said I did not have to have an after-school job if I played sports.
Probably easier for them.
Yeah. So I did continue basketball through senior year. I was also the tennis manager, but that was because I had a crush on a boy. Ooh. So no, I was a part of the A+ program, which is actually how I got into teaching. I wanted to waste time and make sure I didn't have to do I loved school, but I didn't want to do school. And so I got into a classroom to tutor, and the classroom was a person who went to my church. So it was kind of like, hey, if I show up, will you sign my piece of paper? And she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I ended up falling in love with it. It was a special education classroom, and there was one moment from high school where I so remember it. I was 15 and I was tutoring this little boy, and he hated coming into that classroom. And this is really why I went into teaching. He said that, well, this took several weeks for him to explain to me, but he said that the reason he hated coming into that classroom is because there was a kid who would go out of his way to like whisper in his ear the whole walk to the classroom, you're going to the stupid class, you're going to the stupid class, you're going to the stupid class, because he was going for resource minutes. And man, that broke my heart.
Mine too.
That is the day I knew I wanted to be a teacher. That was probably the most impactful moment of my high school career. Set me on a different path. And then college, I went to the University of Missouri St. Louis, which is UMSL for short. Proud Triton over here. We would say UMSL, proud of you, with a hashtag.
I'm so proud of you, Renee.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
And in college, I was a resident advisor, mostly because they were going to pay for my housing. So that was nice. I loved it. I loved it so much that I became the senior resident advisor of programming. So I planned lots of events. And if I had a second career, I think event planning would be it.
I figured you'd be a travel agent.
A travel agent?
Yeah, somebody that books vacations for people.
I love to travel. I don't know. I'd book too many vacations for myself. I think would be the problem.
My wife would say the same thing. So, so tell me about this trip to Spain.
Oh yeah, I see it. So I went to Spain. It was my lifelong dream to go to Spain. It was absolutely incredible. I studied in Barcelona for 3 weeks. Took an additional 2 weeks to go to Valencia. And that was night and day. They are two very different cities. And if you ever have the opportunity to travel to Barcelona or Valencia, totally would recommend. Gosh, crazy times, good times. And then I got to travel to Italy, and I traveled to Germany and Austria. And I was way too young to even appreciate all the beauty I was seeing. I've since been able to go back to Europe. I've been blessed by that. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, that was just probably the best time of my college career, really. Was getting to explore different cultures.
You ever done much traveling in the States?
I've gotten a lot on the east side of the Mississippi. But man, I've only been to Colorado on the west of the Mississippi, and Missouri, obviously. And I've been down to Arkansas. I don't know if I count. I haven't been out west ever, really. So I'm sad about that.
Depending on who calls me, this is totally a sidebar, by the way, but depending on who calls me and what side of the Mississippi I'm on when I'm running my sales territory, I will answer the phone and say, John Mark, the best looking salesman this side of the Mississippi River, because I'm on both of them all the time. But I would highly recommend, you were talking about how you weren't necessarily old enough to appreciate everything that you were seeing in some of the areas that you had traveled to. And I vibe with that. Because when I was younger, we would travel to we did Yellowstone National Park, like some of those places, Glacier National Park, all those up in Montana and Wyoming, and some of just the most beautiful country that you would ever be on in your life. And I would prefer, at the time, I would rather sit there with my face on my cell phone than look at all this boring stuff out the window. One of the most interesting things that I did whenever I was in Montana, my dad and I were working up there, and our thing is to play golf. And so one of the golf courses that we were on had antelope on the golf course. When you would tee off, they would be 5 feet from you. They didn't care.
How big are antelope?
They're huge.
Okay.
They're I don't know, 120 pounds. And they didn't move.
Even when you swing your golf club?
Hit ball, nothing. They don't flinch.
Okay, so I like hiking so much, but I'm not gonna lie, big wildlife freaks me out. I hate horses because because they're wild animals. And
They're
you know what?
massive.
They're majestic in their own way. But
That's
like, I
right.
think animals that are bigger than me, they really freak me out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an instinct, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
survival instinct.
Yeah. Horses are weird. I can't. I'm not a horse person. I wouldn't want to get bucked off of one. I don't really want to pet one. Anything that grunts like that is not for me.
Fair enough.
I'll look at it from a distance and I might bet on it, but I am not riding one.
That's funny.
Not at all. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Tell me about your first job.
Okay. I had a couple first jobs, and my husband will be mad at me if I don't mention that my real first job was actually at a shoe carnival for 3 months, and I quit because I hated it.
Yeah.
I didn't write it down because I'm so embarrassed because I hated it so much, and I appreciate anybody who is in the field of customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you and bless your families. That is not for me.
You ever
So if
worked
I
in the
didn't,
food industry?
no, I
No.
have not.
See, I've done the customer service deal. I've never done the food industry. And those are the people who I just want to pray blessings upon them. I don't know how they do it.
No, yeah, me either. Me either.
So, shoe
I took
carnival.
that. Yeah, so shoe carnival. It was 3 months. It was horrible.
I figured you
But
would have told me that you were spending your paycheck there or something along those lines. And like the wisdom of a young Renee said that I need to get out of here because I'm wasting my paycheck. You just didn't like it.
no, I didn't like it. I really hated it because well, I was really bad with the cashier. Like I could not handle the cashiers, at the front. So they made me do the stocking of the shelves, which just, I hated the grunt work. So yeah, it did not work out. But I would say my real first job, like the job that like I maintained, I was a full-time nanny while I was in college. So that started with my high school counselor, moved up to St. Louis at the same time I did. She had a family at her school who needed after school help. They connected, we got connected. It worked out. And I've known that family ever since. Gosh, when I met the little boy, he was 6. Now he is like 14. And so I feel I'm not really that old, but I feel old when I say that.
Mm-hmm. It's weird watching babies grow up.
Man, yeah. So it is weird.
Mm-hmm.
And that really was probably that was such an amazing connection for me. It has helped me in so many ways, not only in my career as an educator, but as just a person, really learning to be patient, learning to be kinder. And I was so blessed with that connection, really. I was very thankful for that.
There's nothing like the memory of a first job. Like my first job, I worked at a place called Pump It Up Party Rentals. So people would
wait, like pump it up, like bounce houses.
Like pump up the jam, pump it.
Okay.
Up.
Okay.
No, yeah, like bounce houses.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that was interesting about it was people would come in and you would just do a birthday party, like 3 or 4 birthday parties a day, and have to keep the same energy and be the rule person. And I worked there for 2 years. I never got a raise. It was truly a part-time job, and I started when I was 14. But I will never forget that job.
How old?
14. Yeah.
Is that too young? I don't know what the
I am convinced that Texas does not have child labor laws. But yeah, I started when I was 14, and I can still sing Happy Birthday very well to this day.
I believe that. Mm-hmm. Are you going to demonstrate?
No, I'm not. If it was your birthday, you might get one line out of me. The other thing that job really taught me was I hate to vacuum. So the square footage of the place that held all our inflatables was probably 8,000 square feet. And so every night, whenever we got done, I would have to vacuum. And
my gosh.
Oh yeah. One of the ladies.
The whole place?
The whole place. Yep. So, and it wasn't a big vacuum. It was like a 12-inch vacuum.
You need
And
like a Zamboni.
yeah, no, I didn't get one of those. The technique, I was taught a technique. It was push, pull, push, and then move. And that's what you would have to do for the whole floor. It was awful.
That sounds horrible.
I can
Yeah,
clean
that's
really
kind of
good
like
though.
that's like a wax on, wax off.
hmm
Like,
Yeah,
whew,
I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
no way, no way. No, at least nannying, I'll have to say it was different every day. I think one of my best memories um, was the day that we took the what do you call those? The strainers, the calendars. They're
Colander.
colanders.
hmm
Yeah, colander. They had a couple metal ones. So one day we put pipe cleaners through there and we put beads through there and we put them on our heads like we were astronauts and we
hmm
built a rocket ship.
That's
Man, fun
awesome.
times. Yeah,
That's
that was a
awesome.
good day.
Well, you
That
probably
was
got to
probably,
keep the imagination of a kid in
yeah.
your work day, and that makes time really fly by.
Yeah, it was fun. It
Yeah.
was fun. So that position led to like then full-time nannying summers, which was lovely. That then led to just really now we just have a good friendship, and I'm so thankful for that. So quite different than your first job, John Mark.
hmm Oh, quite
Yeah.
different. One thing that so in my current job, I spend a lot of time by myself. And in that time, I talk to myself a lot. I've always talked to myself. I was talking to my parents the other day about it, and they go, "Oh, yeah, you've done that since forever, and your mom's done it. It's a generational thing."
Huh.
How do you, in your day to day, not get frustrated at your students and say and just say things to yourself that they hear?
Well, first off, my students know when I'm frustrated because I wear
Mm,
my emotions on my sleeve.
mm,
But I can't say I don't get frustrated. I
okay.
do. But I will say this. I I definitely take it with like one, I believe in honesty. So like
Oh,
with my
facts.
students, because I think that if they don't know why I'm like upset or mad, or if they don't understand that I am mad, they're just gonna get the worst of it, right? So
hmm
I really tell them like even if I'm not frustrated with them, if I'm frustrated at a situation in my life, I'll tell them up front, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling today, or this is my mood right now.
hmm
This is what like I need you to be aware of the situation because I'm not going to be light on you guys today. But I'll be honest, there have been days that I've totally blown up on my students, and any inner city teacher will say that it is so tempting to raise your voice and yell at kids.
hmm
Because you think that, you really do. You think like, okay, there's so much chaos happening in my classroom, like yelling and raising my voice is what is going to solve the problem. The answer is no, 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 no.
hmm
My first year of teaching, actually, you guys can't see my hand, but when I would raise my voice to a point that I would have been embarrassed if there had been a parent or an administrator in my classroom, I would actually take a permanent marker and tally mark my hand. And there would be days I would get up to 13, 14 tally marks where I would have raised my voice so much at my students
hmm
that I would have been embarrassed had another adult been in that classroom. And slowly but surely those tally marks got less and less and less. Obviously now that is not something I have to do anymore,
hmm
but that's because it's a trap people fall into.
hmm
And I realize you're never gonna break a cycle of yelling and frustration if you don't break it yourself. So
Yeah.
I do. I make sure, actually I probably do more than anything. I just get really quiet, like
hmm
deathly quiet, and I
hmm
think that's kind of scary.
Oh yeah.
So,
She's about to snap.
yeah.
About to snap. One of the things that
But
was so interesting from my teaching internships or just my time in college is we would go into these schools, which we didn't go into inner city schools or anything like that. We went to Fayetteville public schools, which was a pretty good school system. But I would remember watching some of my fellow classmates try to lead class and screaming at these kids and getting nothing in return.
mhm.
It was always so awkward for me to watch. I would much rather stand up there and be quiet and we can play the waiting game. That's fine. Eventually you'll listen or you'll just do your thing. I don't care. I'm here to teach, and if not, then you don't have to learn anything if you don't want to.
Yeah, I can relate from personal experience. I really can. It's so easy, and it's hard because my students' parents yelling at them too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard because
Mm-hmm.
that is it's so easy to fall into,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so not the most effective
Yeah.
tool that adults have in their pocket
Mm-hmm.
because children respond to so many different things. They really do. And ultimately all the kids want is to just learn and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Even kids who look like they don't want to, even kids who look like they're not trying, that's what they want. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't know how to show it.
Yeah,
That's the truth. We all want that innately. We all want to be successful.
absolutely. I believe there's good character in all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were asked to fast forward your life 20 years and pick 3 words that described you, what words would you use?
Yeah, I know that word number one would definitely be integrity. Integrity is definitely like where I hone in on my life. I'd also want to say that I would, to be driven.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is going to be
What
a
does
little,
driven look like to you?
so driven to me is a mixture of being both like a go-getter, like a hard worker, and focused. Like to be driven towards like a real specific, like a goal, like
Mm-hmm.
where you're headed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's about being passionate, but if you're passionate but you don't have like a place where you're headed, then you could fizzle out. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
people are experiencing, like teachers are experiencing all over the world. They're what's the word? Burnout.
Mm-hmm. Oh, burnout
That's where.
is that's a serious deal.
So,
Make
uh,
sure you take some time to rest.
oh, I do
Yeah.
actually. This is a strange, like I said, it's a strange year. So now I start my day a little bit earlier, but I'm off at 2:00. It's very strange. So
Mm-hmm.
I get a nice afternoon.
Have you started
But
gaming to fill the free time?
no,
Are you playing
I
Call of Duty?
no. No, I actually I like to scrapbook a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
I've started a new scrapbook, and because like I said, we bought a new house, so I'm currently in the throes of just trying to decide what our new kitchen will look like when we get there.
Oh,
Like
color schemes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's
So
that's what I do.
we have
Okay, so I said
integrity driven.
integrity. Yep. And then the last one is a little confusing if you're not in education. It's champion for my students. And that's a phrase from a woman named Rita Pearson.
Are you using champion as a verb?
Yeah, yeah. Champion can be both a verb and a noun, I think, actually, in this situation.
Okay. Explain to me. I don't need the difference, but why you chose the word champion?
Well, can I talk about Rita Pearson a little bit? Because that's why.
If she's part of your reason, absolutely. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So if you're in education and you've never heard of Rita Pearson, I highly encourage you to Google her TED Talk. But she's basically a woman who taught in an inner city school who her whole philosophy is, we have to believe in our students. We have to believe in every single one of them. And we have to be champions for our students. And that's really where that comes from is be a champion for your students. And that's why I feel so strongly about that. It means to not only, like your students, but fully believe in the success of every single one of them. Every single student has the capability to grow. Every single student has the capacity to be successful. And without that belief, I don't know what you're doing in the classroom. If you don't believe that about your students, you're doing them a disservice. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree with that.
that's what that means
Yeah.
to me.
So I was asking about the champion part and if you're using it as a verb. And to answer my own question, it's yes. You are using that in a verb. To champion someone, to give a Webster dictionary, is someone who fights or speaks publicly in support of a person, belief, or cause. And
Yeah.
so that's what you're doing for your students is making sure that they know that you believe in them. And I can see why Rita Pearson is a role model for you.
Yeah, that's really the right word. In my grad school classes, we call it, she's in my professional learning network, which obviously I don't know Rita Pearson myself, but she is somebody who I look up to as a role model in education.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if she was in your personal life network?
I wish. I really do wish.
I had to think of another acronym for PLN.
I was really impressed. I was quick.
Yeah. Do you have anybody else you look up to in education?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple. So this is something I've been really working on these past couple months. But just to name one other educator who I think has done amazing work. Her name is Linda Clyett Wayman, and she is also an inner city school principal who, very similar to Miss Pearson, really, really works hard for her students. And she's the woman who I kind of got that concept of fierce love from. That concept that we talked about earlier of like that discipline paired with that joy. She is a woman who took a school, I think it's like Strawberry Mansion or something like that, out on the East Coast. And she turned it around, and her TED Talk is also inspirational. She's the woman I go to on the bad days. If I am having a bad day teaching, I actually have it bookmarked on my computer, and I'll just watch it. It's, less than 15 minutes, because you need that. I think anybody, any field needs somebody who inspires them to get back at it.
Can I give you another nugget of wisdom for your bad days?
Yeah.
So at our church, we have our church is kind of in a similar demographic to what St. Louis Public Schools is.
Okay.
But one of the things that they talk about in serving at the church is the mentality of, can you believe we get to do this? I encourage you to take that with you.
I really like that.
Yep. It's a different thing. And one of the deals that we have to do often is my wife and I serve for our high school ministry, and we will actually go and pick up our students. And I drive enough.
That's a commitment.
I drive enough as it is. I drive 1,400 miles a week. The last thing I want to do is spend more time in the car. But the mentality didn't really sink in until a couple weeks ago, when I had a student in my wife's car that said, can you drive around a little longer because I'm having such a good time. I don't want to go home now.
Oh, I love that.
So can you believe we get to do this?
See, and that's you building community and relationships.
That's what this is. That's what this whole show is. I'm trying to paint a picture of the awesome people that come on this show and who they are, and pilot a conversation and then produce it. That's really what this is.
I think it's amazing.
Yep.
Cool endeavor.
Last thing I've got for you.
Okay.
What are you dreaming about? What does the next 10 years look like?
Guys listening, this was the hardest question for me to kind of think about. This was the one where I looked at this and I said, okay, well, I have personal and professional goals. Professional goals were much easier for me to identify because I know what I want. So
because you're driven.
Yeah. I know I want to be in a position of leadership as either a principal within St. Louis Public Schools or some sort of curriculum specialist. I don't know exactly what that looks like over the next 10 years, but I do know that's what I want. And I know it's going to be I believe in St. Louis Public Schools, so that's where I will be.
I see that in your future anyways.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just to cast some vision over your life. I see you being a principal in your future.
Well, on my first date with my husband, I actually told him I wanted to be the superintendent of St. Louis Public Schools.
Go for it.
That seems ambitious, but I do think that, why not, right?
No, absolutely. You can do it.
Yeah. And then personally, I want to see our family grow. We definitely want to have kids. So I look forward to that chapter in my life as a mother. And then, we're trying to get into the income property game. So that would be our other personal goal would be 2 to 3 properties, have some passive income.
Secondary income.
Yeah. But that's tricky. Wealth begets wealth. And so when we don't have a skin in the game, like it's hard to get started. So we're navigating our way through that. It's tricky.
Facts. It's very hard to get started. I mean, it really is. You can have the dreams and the vision for it, but if you don't have either the credit or the funding in the first place, that's tough to do. Yeah. I see it happening for you guys though.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. I would love to own rental properties and rest on my laurels, basically. Maybe
this is all for retirement.
That's
my husband, he says, "Yeah, we're planning for retirement."
Oh, okay.
Don't plan on. I said, I'm not sure. What my retirement will look like. So we'll see.
Maybe y'all should look at condos in Florida. Just do an Airbnb type thing.
I would love to own property in Florida.
Yeah, you should.
Mainly because I love to visit.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. So, Renee Amoroso, thank you so much for coming on the Daily People podcast, the show that is made great by great guests like you.
What a great tagline.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me. It was really great to be on. Thank you.
See ya.
All right. Bye, John Mark.
Bye. Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is your host, John Mark Spear. I wanted to take a moment to just say thank you for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it. If you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me. My email is johnmarkspear0830@gmail.com.